Welcome to Good for Bitcoin, a weekly show recorded live every Friday where we recap the top events of the week and talk about everything that is good for Bitcoin. If it's built on Bitcoin, then it's good for Bitcoin. Let's get started.
Content shared on this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute financial, investment, or legal advice. The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guests and do not reflect the official policy or position of any other agency, organization, or company. We encourage you to conduct your own research and consult with a qualified professional before making any financial decisions.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Good for Bitcoin. It is the last show of the year. Can you believe it? What a year.
Yeah. It feels like we've had a year in the last month.
It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have both just been so busy with all of these launches happening. What a crazy week it was as well. We're going to get into that. But yeah, excited to talk about. We titled the show "What Was Best for Bitcoin in 2025." So we're going to go through some of our stories that we covered this year, which was super impactful, I think, for Bitcoin. Lots to get into, but yeah, we were very busy. We had a very busy Thursday and a busy week. A lot of prep also leading up over multiple weeks leading up to this week. But just to start with, both of us actually hosted panels on 4 stacks on the Bitcoin Capital Markets webinar series that has been going on. Would love to have you talk about your panel.
Yeah, I hosted, it was like more of a fireside chat with Stefan from Blockdaemon. It was really, obviously they're like the infrastructure powerhouse. So they just talked a lot about, like how they manage being reliable when issues go wrong. I think we both agreed like transparency and putting risks up front is probably the most important thing. I brought that perspective from Stacks, and like that's definitely what we look for when we partner with other institutions on stuff like this, especially infrastructure wise. So yeah, it was really good. I think he had joined us for a couple of panels. And I mean, Blockdaemon is like very well versed in the Stacks ecosystem. So it was a good chat for sure. Yeah. And what about yours?
Yeah, I had Ken from Xverse and Will from Leather on. So we had the two leading Stacks wallets on. I think it was a really interesting convo because these webinars are focused like on institutional users. Mm-hmm. For retail, obviously we want to hold our own keys, and we use Leather and we use Xverse to do that, and we use like hardware wallets and stuff. But it's really interesting that like for institutions like legally prefer to not actually hold their own keys, and mm-hmm. they prefer to have like somebody to sue if something goes wrong. It's just like a very different way of thinking about like digital assets. So it's interesting to hear like their perspectives on like designing for institutions and like what their power users care about versus like what institutions care about.
Yeah.
That's why you see, such a focus on like Fortify and a lot of these other apps that are like kind of more for institutions to manage their assets versus like us. We can just use, multi-sig if we want to get like really crazy with it. That's like as far as we go, on the retail side. But for, institutions, they need like, somebody to not hold all the keys, and they need to like have just a big series of locks and permissions and things like that to manage. And also they want to be able to like have somebody to blame if something goes wrong and not be able to blame themselves for like losing all their funds and stuff. So yeah, but yeah, it was pretty good conversation.
Yeah. If you didn't catch them live, they are up on our YouTube channel at the moment, so you can go check them out. They might be on, I don't think they're on the Stacks Twitter account. Maybe I'm wrong, but I do know that you can watch them again on YouTube. And then we have a third one coming up in January. I think we're still kind of working out the panelists and participants in that one. But yeah, that'll be a great great way to kick off the year.
Yeah. And yesterday feels like a blur. There's
I
so much going
know.
on. So much to that. Yeah. We've been preparing for a long time, for like over a month, at least a few months at least. But yeah, I mean, we can recap all the news. So first off, in the early morning, for me at least, we announced USDC X that launched on Stacks. So we now have USDC that can be bridged into Stacks, and it's an official like Circle X Reserve powered bridge. So really exciting. I'll share the tweet here. But yeah, the bridge is super smooth. I'm sure you have gone through it. I went through it as well when we were testing it out, and really easy to like connect an Ethereum wallet, to connect a Stacks wallet, and move your USDC into Stacks. It's really cool.
Really cool. It's super intuitive. You made a video that I'm going to clip up and we'll share it out. And it kind of like, I like how you walk through the whole process of like converting US dollars eventually to USDC on Stacks. So that'll be, I think, useful for people to see. But the whole experience is really nice. The design is great. And like, I feel like we are moving in this direction of just better UX, UI. I don't even know which one you want to call it. That, you know, what's going on underneath the hood is obviously more efficient and easier, but it's really represented in this bridge. So it's very cool. Yeah, I think so many people are very excited about this.
Yeah, I wanted to go through like the whole process of like moving my dollars from like a bank account to being on chain and on Stacks, and, you know, being able to deploy it in like more productive ways. Especially with like interest rates going lower and lower every month, right? Like having my dollars in a bank account is like less and less attractive. So, you know, I do plan on like moving a lot more over. So I wanted to kind of document that process. And yeah, for me, like we were just testing it out. So I just put like $20 in, and I deposited $20 into Coinbase, and I ended up being able to withdraw like $19 because like I couldn't do the whole 20 because it needed to like account for gas fees and whatever. So basically I took $19 from Coinbase and I moved $19 into like a MetaMask wallet. I think I used Phantom actually. So I put it into Phantom, $19 in USDC. So no fees when you deposit on Coinbase and convert to USDC, which is really cool. So that was free. Moved it over to Phantom, which was like super cheap. You just pay like ETH gas fees, which are low at the time. And then did the bridge and bridged from my Phantom wallet into Lether. And in total, I think I only paid 17 cents in fees to go the entire way from my bank account to USDC X on Stacks. And it took like 20 minutes. And most of that is just like waiting for like Ethereum confirmation to happen. So yeah, it was very smooth. I was pretty impressed with how low the fees were compared to like Allbridge, you know, is what we kind of the only option that we had before. Much more expensive because I think Allbridge also was based on, it was like a percentage of like whatever you were bridging. So if you were bridging like a higher amount, you know, you would pay higher fees. Where this is like, it's just network fees. So it kind of doesn't really matter how much you're bridging. It's just like, it's a transaction's a transaction almost. So yeah, it was a really great experience. And Manib said this on the Stacks town hall yesterday that we're also going to talk about a little bit, but he talked about how it felt like this coming home for Circle. And it was also really cool. Stacks got a shout out from Jeremy Allaire, who is the CEO of Circle, you know, quote tweeted the Stacks announcement. And yeah, I think I've told this story on the show already, but Circle was actually the first place that I bought Bitcoin. Way back in the day, Circle was just like a Bitcoin company.
No way.
They were trying to like do payments on Bitcoin, and you know, we kind of know how that worked out with like fees and stuff. Eventually they like stopped supporting Bitcoin to just focus on stablecoins, which at the time, like I didn't understand. I also didn't understand Bitcoin at the time. But I was like, why would I want stablecoins when I can just use like PayPal, right? Like,
exactly.
I didn't get it.
Yeah.
So yeah, like at the time, like that felt like a weird move, but obviously it worked out for them pretty well. But yeah, just cool to see so much excitement from the community on this and a lot more attention coming to Stacks. This is, you know, the first stablecoin, like the first like tier 1 stablecoin on a Bitcoin layer.
Yep.
So
It's
pretty
huge
big deal.
news. Yeah. And I feel it's really cool to see Circle excited about it too. I mean, I don't think they don't amplify anything lightly, and they seem excited from their point of view as well. So working with them over the last few months has been a pretty cool experience. And then to see it all just like come to light now it's like, whew, it's a big relief, but it's exciting. And then even in the new year, like there's going to be a lot more, I feel like action around it because, we'll have partner apps really integrating it and, proving use cases with it and showing how to use it. And then right now it's just basically Ethereum to Stacks, but there is like a bridge kit coming. So it will open up to Solana. So that'll be cool to see.
Yeah, we've already had people asking about like when Solana, when Base, pretty much everything like that USDC is natively on, which includes those two networks, is also going to be supported on the bridge. I think that's pretty much coming in like January or at least like very early in the year, where you'll be able to bridge from any chain. I am excited for like a Base or a Solana just because that the fees are even lower there compared to like Ethereum L1. So for that onboarding, it just makes it even easier, even cheaper,
quicker,
potentially to a little bit faster too.
Yeah,
to move over. So yeah, we're skipping ahead a little bit into the news, but we're so excited for the USDCX announcement that happened. A lot of prep and a lot of stuff coming too, like you said. And we're also prepping, with the launch of all the apps like Bitflow and Zest and Granite and everybody that's going to be supporting USDCX on their platforms. We're going to have like some bounties and some contests and all sorts of stuff that we're prepping for January. So it's going to be a fun time, but not there yet. But yeah, so we had that yesterday. We also had the Stackies, which we both got to host, which was so fun.
That was really fun.
I had still have my soundboard here, all my sound effects.
I think that really made it.
14 winners that won. I can pull up the tweet here so we can give a quick shout out to all the winners. But it was a lot of fun, and also shout out to Kyle for being our host and for giving a very, very cool intro and outro. I'm doing I don't know, was there a title to
I don't know if
did
there
he
was
alter
a
the
title?
It was the night before Christmas, but it was like Stacks edition.
Yeah, it was very, very on brand. I love it.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And then we did just like a little after party Twitter space afterwards too, which was also cool. Had a lot of the winners of the Stackies came in. We had like Jack Binswitch was in there. We had Rubes
cool.
join. 300 was in there. A lot of folks, that won awards. So very cool.
Yeah,
and then
cool.
You weren't here last week, but last week on the show we had Zero, Hattie, and Hodl Stacks from Zero Authority DAO. And today, at the end of the show, we're actually going to be picking 5 winners from that show that are winning some sBTC. So we'll be picking those winners at the end of the show. If you're listening, stay tuned.
Hey, that's exciting. Very fun. All right. Should we get into who's buying Bitcoin this week?
Of course, we have to. So yeah, Bitcoin Treasury company news. Strategy bought another huge amount of Bitcoin. They bought almost the same amount last week as well, but they bought 10,645 BTC this week. And yeah, it's their second week in a row of buying over 10,000 BTC. They now hold 671,268 Bitcoin to wrap up the year. Maybe they'll buy some next week, but yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I also saw a couple weeks ago, I think it was, I brought up that the MSCI, basically they had this like proposal to exclude companies that had heavy amounts of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And they wanted to remove them from the indices, and Strategy's like pushing pretty heavily against it, obviously, because that would remove a lot of eyes and investment from them. So there's not really been any update. It seems like nothing has really changed at this point, other than them like very much advocating that should not happen. I saw a couple of headlines talking about it, so I thought it would be worth mentioning.
Yeah, so yeah, I think there's a funny headline that I wanted to save for the end to wrap on that. But yeah, it's amazing how much like Bitcoin they've acquired this year. They started 2025 with 447,000. So that means over the course of the year, they've acquired an additional 224,000 Bitcoin in just 1 year. It's a lot of Bitcoin.
That's a lot of Bitcoin. Yep. I just want to shout out, we have some people in our YouTube chat. Thank you for being with here. I'm getting your names confused is what I'm trying to say. Know they're with you, and Pablo Cry. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and dropping us a little hello.
Love it.
That's so fun.
Hello. Wow, how cool. Yeah, we had a bunch of folks that were in the chat last week that were collecting their bounties, or at least satisfying some of the bounty requirements to engage.
There we go. Yeah.
So they are back. Welcome back. Love it. And yeah, stay tuned to the end. Right, we'll be announcing the winners. So maybe we'll see some folks in here that'll end up winning.
Awesome.
And that'll be cool to celebrate live. Yeah, some other Bitcoin Treasury news. This one I saw Strive. They increased their perpetual preferred stock dividend from 12% to 12.25%. So they're really trying to compete with Strategy. But yeah, on the news, or talking about how much Bitcoin Strategy acquired, wanted to just go over, like, 2025 was like the year for Bitcoin Treasury companies. So just to quickly recap, we saw governments grow their BTC holdings from 513,000 to 647,000, which was a 26% growth. Public companies grew their BTC holdings from 600,000 to 1 million, which is 81% growth. And ETFs grew their Bitcoin holdings from 1.28 million to 1.49 million, which is a 16% growth, which is not as much as I would have expected. But a few weeks ago, we talked about how, and especially with the price, right? It seems like a lot of people are selling large amounts of Bitcoin. And I think we talked about it like towards the beginning of this year, where ETFs were allowing like large institutions, or certainly just like Bitcoin whales, to convert their on-chain Bitcoin into an ETF format, so they could just like go directly to it. And I think that has been sort of like the venue for a lot of the selling. So like these huge whales are, it's at least my theory anyway. I'm sure that there's on-chain people that are looking at the on-chain data that can like back this up better. We have these big whales that are moving their huge amounts of Bitcoin, converting them into ETFs, and then they're selling Bitcoin via the ETFs. And, because the ETFs are more liquid, and it's easier for them to sell those large amounts. So that is my theory for why ETF holdings didn't grow a lot, especially compared to like public companies, 81% growth versus like 16% growth for ETFs. So that's my theory for why there's not a lot of growth there.
Yeah, that makes sense. I usually like your theories. They're usually pretty well thought out.
Oh, thanks. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if there's any truth to that at all, but I feel like in my mind that makes sense.
That's good. So yeah, we saw a lot of treasury companies being born in 2025. And then Stacks released this Stacks Vision 2026. And it's definitely not only about Bitcoin yield, but it definitely seems like it's moving in that direction. So Alex and Manib outlined this plan for self-custodial Bitcoin staking on the L1 with unilateral withdrawals. So Alex made a post on the Stacks forum. It goes into like pretty good detail and sort of outlines what they're really thinking about. And then he has a great Twitter thread just kind of punchlining his thoughts. But you can go into it a little bit. I can tell you what excites me the most, but please share your thoughts and some of the biggest insights that you have too.
Yeah, I was on Bitflow's Twitter space yesterday, and we were talking about this a little bit. And a year ago, a year ago, we had Nakamoto and we had sBTC were sort of just launched, and we were talking about how this was the foundation, right? This was the foundation that Stacks needed to really evolve and to grow. Those are still hugely important, right? Having 5-second transactions instead of 10+ minute transactions, very important. Having Bitcoin finality, very important. Having a BTC bridge, very important. Like, those are all foundational things. But meanwhile, while we were building this, found this really strong foundation, there were these tectonic shifts underneath us this year with this huge focus now on tons of institutions are holding huge amounts of Bitcoin. public companies are holding huge amounts of Bitcoin. ETFs are still growing their Bitcoin holdings, even though it didn't grow as fast as maybe public companies did. So we have a lot of Bitcoin now that is sitting in the hands of these large institutions, large whales, that's just sitting there. It's not productive. It's not doing anything. And that's a risk to Bitcoin ultimately. If it continues to grow, that means that you just have a large amount of Bitcoin that's sitting there and it's trading on paper, but it's not actually trading. It's not contributing to really anything to the Bitcoin network, right? It's not contributing in transaction fees. So the fact that we have this huge growth is maybe great for the price, but it's not really great for the network. That's the one thing that I think is really cool with this vision that is being outlined, through, Alex posted it, but it's, a huge collaborative effort, across kind of the entire ecosystem, is how do we make Bitcoin more productive, but how do we also make sure that this productivity is contributing to the L1 and actually, contributing to miner fees, contributing to transaction fees. Those are the same thing, but contributing to fees. And also, which is very important for Bitcoiners, moving into as trustless as you can go over time. So the first part of that is leading with self-custodial Bitcoin staking. That means being able to essentially stack your Bitcoin on the L1 without giving up control of your Bitcoin. So not bridging it and then having to trust, a bridge. It's like literally staking it or locking it up on the L1 and having a way to do that. That's sort of phase one. And that is coming very soon, right? That's coming, I think, within the next couple of months. So that's super exciting. I think, for Bitcoiners, for Bitcoin maxis that don't want to deal with L2s and they don't want to, there is trust involved, right? With any L2, with any bridge, you're introducing trust, you're introducing risk. It might be a small amount of risk, but it's still risk. And for many Bitcoiners, any amount is too much. So having something like this, where it is just staying on the L1, you have what, many refer to as a unilateral exit, which means that you can, via the L1, get your Bitcoin back and not have to worry about doing any actions on an L2. Is super, super powerful. And then from there, it's, it's continuing to extend that, right, over time, and talking about more scalable payments, evolving stacks into something that can be like a payments network, higher throughput, more optimized for that. We already know, that Stacks is super fast and super cheap to send payments, especially compared to the L. Like the TPS isn't necessarily there compared to some other networks that are out there. And then also even expanding on privacy and having options for private transactions in the future. And then eventually moving to trust to minimize Bitcoin DeFi fully, which is, much farther out. What I like about the plan too is because it's not just a 1 year plan, it's like a 5 to 10 year plan.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, it's to always sort of have what's the next thing? There should never be a situation where you're in the Stacks ecosystem and you're thinking okay, well, these things launched, now what? So it's having that very, look far ahead looking vision. So you always have something to look forward to, I guess. And maybe it's also creating a situation where there's never a sell the news moment, because it's just always something else to look forward to. But yeah, I feel like I've been talking about this for a while now, so maybe I'll throw it to you.
No, it's good.
You can talk about it also. But yeah, this is very exciting.
Yeah, no, that was an amazing recap. I actually learned things from when you talk, so that's good. I'm so excited about the privacy sort of aspect of this. I think this is very cool for them to be exploring. I've had conversations with Manib. It was actually when we were launching dual stacking, and then he kind of went on a tangent, and it was really fun to see him kind of riff on it. But he was talking about how Zcash, for example, if Zcash is to succeed, it basically overtakes Bitcoin, right? Because like that becomes the new store of value. And he was talking about how Stacks like cannot overtake Bitcoin. That's just by design. It relies on Bitcoin and it's meant to sort of prop it up. And so it's always meant to be the number two. It's always meant to be supporting Bitcoin. And so if there's some way to build sort of this Zcash style privacy within Stacks, I feel like that is so cool. And I'm really excited to see like what the team comes out and how they're thinking about this. Because I do feel like we're living in a world that continuously gets more and more surveilled. Things are becoming a little bit tighter, and I don't know, having this option to transact privately or disclose what you want to disclose, to me, that's super, super interesting. So that will be something that I'm personally very curious about. But then obviously this like self-custodial staking aspect makes it much easier to market Stacks and talk about it and bring people in, because that is always like the number one thing when you're talking to Bitcoiners is, well, I have to trust Stacks. I have to, put my faith in others and put my Bitcoin at risk, especially if they like don't fully understand how Stacks works. But this whole idea that like even if Stacks goes down, you can still recover your Bitcoin, that's so powerful. So those are like my two that I'm really excited about. But it'll be cool to see how this develops. They're obviously very excited about it too. I feel like they've been really like itching to get this out there and have people talking about it.
Yeah, I think they also talked about, I mean, it's hard to like launch something like this over the holidays, so I think we're going to see a lot more conversation about this like going into the new year, starting in January. And there's also, I believe, I stopped sharing my screen, but I believe at the end of the forum post, there is also a couple invites where you can actually go and register or RSVP to hear directly from the folks like Jude and others that are actually working on this on the technical side to ask for, to ask about it, right? And to talk about it. So it's not like a final, like, white paper that's published and this is what we're doing, right? It's still kind of open for community feedback. So that's, I think, what they're kind of looking at right now. So that's why you're not seeing a huge rush on the marketing side to talk about this yet, but it's coming. There's going to be a lot to talk about with all this stuff. And it's very exciting. And I do agree with you. I think the privacy aspect is super important. I haven't checked what the price of Zcash is since
Me either.
a couple weeks ago when we looked at it, but still incredibly important. And I don't think that clip has gone out yet on socials, but I know exactly what clip you're talking about with Manib.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a really, really cool conversation that you had with him on that. And it makes total sense, right? Like it's also just, it's a good reminder for why we're building on Bitcoin, because it is number one and nothing else is going to be number one, right? It is Bitcoin. So if we can build on Bitcoin, that is much better, right? We unlock much more productivity, I guess, higher market cap, more assets, whatever, however you want to define it. Yeah, a lot to look forward to.
A lot to look forward to. Let's get into the next big news, I guess, that happened this week, which was the Stacks Treasury Committee. They shared their 2025 update. Do you want to walk us through it? We can go back and forth, but you can. I can
very quickly do it. Rena was on the Stacks town hall that happened yesterday, and she was talking about it a little bit as well. Just a couple like high level bullet points, I think, is just like in the summary here in terms of what they reviewed. So the Treasury Committee met as a full quorum for the first time this past month to review the operational progress since SIP 31, and also talked about the 2026 budget proposal, current Treasury strategy, and the ecosystem's broader strategic direction. So, because we're in December, it's a good time to make plans for the new year, to kind of reflect on just the past few months. It's been kind of 3 months now that we've had SIP 31 live and the Stacks Labs has, been established. So it's looking ahead on, we have this budget now. What are we going to do with it, and how are we going to manage it appropriately? They approved for 2026 a $27 million operating budget and a $25 million STX working capital allocation that I think is going to be used in things like market making, things like that. And yeah, another capital kind of deployment stuff to just make sure that, STX stays efficient on chain. And yeah, providing, liquidity and all that stuff. They also, they did reflect on, the price of STX, right? That it's gone down since the approval. So, with the price going down, you can't, if you're spending a lot of STX now versus spending a lot of it later, you're potentially missing out, or on kind of the upside of that STX could have. So they kind of made some adjustments kind of due to kind of just the macro environment. Pretty much every L2 token is down right now. And just the reality also that engineering, security, there's things that are constants, in terms of like expenses. Security is obviously very important. It has like a fixed cost. So allocating additional budget to that, while also, managing kind of the budget that we have is super important. And then this is cool that starting in 2026, but actually I think at the end of this month is the first one. The endowment will host like a monthly public office hours. So again, it's open, right? It's transparent. They're trying to do as much as they can to preserve that transparency. Yeah, I think, the first office hours is scheduled to happen on Monday, the 29th at noon Eastern time. So I think that's hosted from the Stacks Endowment Twitter account.
Awesome. Yeah, love to see it. I don't think anyone can really argue with, funds going to engineering and security. That is like extremely important regardless of market conditions. So yeah, no real surprises there, but definitely join those office hours. I'm going to be tuning in just to, we are separate entities, so it's good to kind of understand what's going on there and sort of how it connects to what we're doing. So awesome stuff.
Definitely.
Right.
Switching gears, this is kind of like not related at all, but this news I thought was super interesting is JP Morgan Chase is launching this new thing called My On-Chain Net Yield Fund, which has the acronym MONEY, MONY, which is a tokenized money market fund that is on Ethereum, which is seeded with 100 million. So I thought this was like fake when I first saw the headline. I was like, what? JP Morgan is like doing a tokenized tokenized money market fund on Ethereum.
So
it's like what a change this past year, right? Of their stance on crypto. But this was an exclusive through Wall Street Journal, and just a couple like bullet points. So it said like the My On-Chain Net Yield Fund will be open to qualified investors or individuals with at least $5 million in investments in institutions with a minimum of $25 million. So they're looking for some high budget folks here with a $1 million investment minimum. They can subscribe to the money fund through the bank's Morgan Money portal, which is like their investing platform. And then in exchange, they will receive digital tokens in their crypto wallets. So it is like truly like an RWA, like real world asset. They are depositing here and they are issuing these on-chain digital tokens in crypto wallets to account for that. And it's just talking about like most money market funds. This one will hold baskets of relatively safe short-term debt securities that usually yield more than bank deposits, and pays interest and accrues dividends daily. And they can redeem shares in cash or USDC. Pretty.
What a world. This is a crazy shift from what we've seen from them, but hey, we'll see if it works.
Yeah. I mean, it has nothing to do with Bitcoin, but hey, because it's on chain, we'll be able to potentially track, how successful this is, I guess. So
yeah, there you go.
I'm sure people are setting up dashboards to do that. Maybe there'll be a Dune dashboard in the future or something tracking this, but
we did talk to the folks
not really
at
related
Dune.
to Bitcoin. That is true. We did. We did talk to some of the guys at Dune at DevConnect. Yeah. And we need some more stack support there. Maybe
I agree.
TBD.
They seemed pretty excited to work with us. They came up to us like, "Oh, we need to get Stacks on board. We love you guys." That was pretty cool.
Yeah, there's some alpha right there, I guess.
There you go. All right, this one's pretty cool. Bitwise, they launched their 2026 predictions. And you've picked out a couple of the most interesting Bitcoin related ones. The first one, prediction one, is that Bitcoin will break the 4-year cycle and set new all-time highs. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, so their prediction, or their, kind of reasoning for this is like Bitcoin has historically moved in a 4-year cycle with 3 significant up years followed by a sharp pullback year. So if it were to continue following that trend, according to this cycle that we're in right now, 2026 should be a pullback year. But they don't see that happening. They see 2026 actually being just an even bigger year than 2025 was. And yeah, I had a post about this as well. I saw like one of their predictions. I saw this prediction a few days ago, and I guess it makes more sense that they're looking at just like in a per year time frame. But I feel like I see a lot of headlines where people are like, the 4-year cycle is dead.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. I still feel like I don't know, like if we're seeing a huge upswing in price next year, I don't know if that, like, does that qualify as like the 4-year cycle being dead? It's like if the price goes up every 4 years, that sounds like a 4-year cycle to me, a continuation. Maybe we're delayed by like a year, but I don't know. I think as long as it happens in the next 2.5 years, which is like how much longer we have in this 4-year cycle, I feel like the 4-year cycle is still here, and that's my thoughts on it at least. But I guess it just depends on how you define it.
Yep. The next one that we don't have to talk about it, but we can mention it. They say Bitcoin will be less volatile than in.
Yeah, they posted this chart, which I don't know, I guess. Yeah, I mean, Nvidia certainly had like a huge. I mean, they've just been benefiting so much from like the wave of AI.
Yeah.
This year, but I don't know. Interesting, I guess.
I don't know. And then the last one we have is ETFs will purchase more than 100% of the new supply of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana as institutional demand accelerates.
Yeah, I mean, supply and demand is kind of what they're leading to here. Crypto asset prices are set by supply and demand, is what they say. Of course, that makes sense.
Yeah.
One of the primary reasons that they're bullish on crypto is in the long term is that they think that demand from institutional investors will outpace new supply for years to come. So it's not just a next year thing. It's just going to continue. So they just think that price is going to keep rising, which is makes a lot of sense. They also had a bonus prediction, which is that Bitcoin's correlation with stocks will fall. And I think we've certainly seen that a lot this year, especially like the past few months. Like,
yeah,
there's all this like macro stuff happening in the world, right? And it's just like anytime that there's like bad news in the world, like the price of every asset goes down. And people normally think that like Bitcoin is sort of like a safe haven kind of asset where, like gold, traditionally is, right? Where like, and there's like mass, chaos in the world. Maybe there's wars. People want to, move to like more safer assets, and like something like Bitcoin or something like gold would be considered something like that. But it has been like a little bit more correlated with stocks. So that's their prediction, I guess, that maybe that correlation will break a little bit. But one final quote that they mentioned in the report, which I think is a great summary, is that they said, "We think 2026 will belong to the bulls." So that's a good quote.
Are we bullish? I think we're bullish.
I think we're bullish. We're so back.
We are so back. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, we're in that era, like, we're in that part of the cycle where like Bitcoin feels like a stable coin. We're like in between like 87K and like 93K, and we've been in that like range for months, and it just kind of feels like kind of blah, but it always goes up over time. It's designed to go up. It's number go up technology, right? So yeah, I think we'll be so back pretty soon. Hopefully.
All right. Well, we can get into some other quick headlines that we found. We can touch on Trump. He was asked about the Samurai wallet case, and he basically just said he'll look into considering a pardon. He mentioned he was aware about it, looking into it, but who knows? It's very similar to the Silk Road, Ross Ulbricht that we talked about. I know, like, obviously the facts of the case are a little bit different, but this was about Keon Rodriguez. He's one of 2 devs, and he was sentenced to 60 months in prison, 3 years of post-release supervision, and a $200,000 fine. And this was all about a money transmitter license, I believe. So at least if it's on Trump's radar, it's big news. You know,
Yep.
there's a chance.
Yep. Yeah. Other headline. This is what we were talking about earlier with the strategy news. There was this Reuters headline where it read, "Bitcoin hoarding company strategy remains in NASDAQ 100." So it's like they're not a Bitcoin treasury company; they are a Bitcoin hoarding company.
So good.
Yeah,
that's so real. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, so we mentioned at the top of the show, this is our last show of the year. So we will be off next week because it's the day after Christmas. So we will be enjoying our holiday. But one thing that I wanted to do was just recap some of the biggest things that happened this year. I fed our show notes into Grok to have it help. And I mean, we do a show every week, right? So we have like 50 shows to look at this year, and maybe a little less than that. I don't know. We had a couple of breaks, but around 50 shows looking at kind of the top 5 most impactful themes in Bitcoin. So we can talk about, we can rapid fire. We can talk about the 5 here. So first one is, no surprise, a massive corporate Bitcoin treasury boom. So we saw public companies like Strategy amass 660,000 Bitcoin, with newcomers like GameStop in 21 raising billions of dollars. Holdings doubled to 820,000 Bitcoin. That's across all public companies, outpacing mining supply 3.3 times, which is pretty crazy. So yeah, the impact, obviously demand outpaced supply. So we did see Bitcoin drive to new all-time highs this year, unlock $1 trillion of capital. Stacks also rode the wave with BTC inflows, boosting TVL to over $1 billion. This shifted BTC from speculative to an essential reserve asset, according to Grok.
All right, next one. Also, no surprise. This one's cool. So this really big push around the U.S. strategic Bitcoin reserves, SBRs. We talked about a lot of different states adopting these. So in total, there was 41 bills across 21 states. We had Arizona, Texas, and then Trump's order, which created this stockpile of 200,000 seized Bitcoin, prohibiting sBTCs. That was a win, I would say. And then we had nations like Czech Republic exploring reserves, but there was really so many countries that were really thinking about this strategic Bitcoin reserve phenomenon. This impact, well, it really leads to Bitcoin as a sovereign wealth, and a lot of states, adopted this. We had Texas buying $10 million worth of Bitcoin. We've also seen $120 billion flow in through institutional demand, and Stacks really gained this Bitcoin as digital gold narrative. That's interesting that Grok pulls that out with sBTC bridging reserves to DeFi.
Thanks, Grok. Thanks for the shout out. It's super funny as you're reading this and talking about like Trump's executive orders. I'm like, we're only like 1 year into Trump's term.
I know. Yeah.
It's like, wow, it's only been a year. Seems like it's been much longer than that.
Yeah.
It feels like we've been talking about him for a long time. Anyway, next one, regulatory wins ending the enforcement era. The SEC dropped these big lawsuits against like Coinbase and Kraken with prejudice. The Genius Act passed, which, super advanced stablecoins in the US. We had SAB 122, which eased bank custody, overriding SAB 121. We had Paul Atkins as the new chair, launching the crypto task force. So tons of regulatory wins in the US. On the US side, it unlocked a lot of innovation. Just $300 billion in BTC-Fi potential, according to Grok. BTC dominance hit 71%. Stacks surged with DeFi clarity, e.g. liquid staking, not securities. That also, that was a big thing as well. Got confirmation in the US that, liquid staking are not securities. Stacks also flipped Lightning, which I don't think is related to regulatory, but that's according to Grok. But that is true. Stacks did flip Lightning in terms of bridged in BTC. So thanks for the other shout out.
Love
Stacks.
It. Next one, I'm not super sure how accurate all these numbers are, but I'm going to go with what I know. So it's talking about the sBTC launch, which was technically 2024, but this whole explosion around DeFi. So we enabled withdrawals for sBTC, which was huge. And we also raised the caps 2 times and ultimately lifted it. So that was a huge win for sBTC. It says Stacks TVL hits 1 billion, but I think that was more of a goal that we had set. I don't think that is true. I don't know.
Fact check that.
We might have to fact check Grok on that one. Then we launched dual stacking, earning Bitcoin yield on your Bitcoin. That was a huge one. We had a ton of integrations with BitGo, Wormhole, Wallet Connect, Circle, like so many huge institutional partnerships that really launched us forward. I know there's more. Nansen is another one, but yeah, just really
Fortify,
big.
A lot of like the institutional, like wallet custody type stuff. Yep.
A lot of people, big names talking about Bitcoin DeFi, Binance, Gemini, and Stacks became number 4 Bitcoin layer, maybe number one
in our hearts. I don't know. Yeah.
What the heck? And it's just, really validating this idea of Bitcoin can be programmable, and Stacks is the best way to do it. And safest, probably. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't claim that, but it's definitely around this narrative of Bitcoin programmability and DeFi on Bitcoin.
Yeah, maybe not compared to like Lightning, but like if you're doing DeFi.
Yeah, very true.
Then yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think I already talked about it at the top of the show, but yeah, I mean, sBTC going live, Nakamoto being here, we're over a year now into it. I think it was on the town hall. They talked about the fact that it was like the one year birthday of sBTC. So yeah, lots of progress. And then, the last one from Grok is Trump's crypto orders in the czar era. So, you had orders banning CBDCs, stockpiling all the seized Bitcoin through Trump's executive orders. David Sachs as the crypto czar, pushing these market structure bills. Gary Gensler's out, pro-innovation focus. Love to see it. So, it made, U.S., like Trump talked about in his speech at the Bitcoin conference last year, the crypto capital, U.S. is the crypto capital. Bitcoin hit all-time highs right after those executive orders, after Trump was, elected. Stacks aligned with that, and Grok's hallucinating.
Yeah, but Grok was a little rogue here.
I think the themes were great, but the Stacks connections are a little rocky.
That's funny.
But so much progress made this year in the Bitcoin ecosystem. So a lot of stuff to celebrate and a lot of stuff to look forward to for the new year. Yeah. Okay. I think we need to pick some winners of the sBTC.
What was the contest last week? How did you manage this sBTC contest?
So 2 weeks ago, we posted a Zero Authority bounty, and it was pretty simple. You just had to tune in to the show that we were doing with Zero and the gang, and just post about the show while it was live last week. So while the show was live, people were posting about it, they were tagging us, and I collected all of the participants here, and we're gonna choose them.
Sweet.
Live. So we have 5 people to choose, random, and they're gonna win $20 or around $20. Maybe the price has gone up or down, in the past 2 weeks, but around $20 in sBTC. So we are going to choose the first person. Feels like the stackies yesterday.
Yeah, get that drum roll going.
Yeah. All right. Looks like Sophie is our first winner. Sophie, congratulations. All right. Next one. Oh, I forgot my air horns. Sorry. Air horns. Sophie, congratulations. All right. All right. Second winner. And we have Sky the Kid. Sky the Kid. Winner number 3. Here we go. Johnny Boy. Johnny Boy, congratulations.
Too bad we had Grimaldo tuning in live.
Well, we got 2 more chances here. Let's see. All right, GNF_nobody. Congratulations to you. And last but not least, 5th winner. Let's see. Moonseeker. Moonseeker, congratulations. So I'll be doing all the on-chain things to make sure that you get paid after the show ends, but congratulations to our 5 winners. That was 5, right? Yes, we have 5 here. Okay.
Awesome stuff.
That was fun. Congratulations, everybody. This is our last show of the year. So, thank you everybody for tuning in, for listening to us every week. It's always so cool, whenever we engage with the community, and we're just broadcasting it out. Like, we don't always see people in the chat or anything. So people are listening. We don't know exactly who it is. So it's always very cool whenever we're engaging and we actually get to talk to people that are like, oh yeah, I listened to the show. And it's just such a cool feeling to be part of this community and to feel the love and feel the support. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening to our final show of the year. Kate, thank you for being such a great co-host. We, it's been 3 months since we took the show kind of independent, and we did the show at Trust Machines for gosh, it's going to be almost 2 years that this show has been around. It's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
But you didn't have to continue doing the show with me, but we just do it because we can. I guess
because we're passionate about Bitcoin, all of the things. No, it's a pleasure. You were so awesome. I mean, to work with at Stacks, but like as a friend too, you're awesome, and I learned so much from being around you, and honestly, like watching you grow and learn too. So thank you so much for also being the best co-host and really making this show what it is, because you're just the best.
Thank you. Well, we have you to thank for even doing the show over video. My dog's barking.
I was going to say, is that a new sound effect we've unlocked?
But yeah, I mean, you helped to just really also like increase just like the production value of this show. Doing it live on video. This used to be just like a Twitter space that we did, I think, when we first started. It's really evolved quite a bit. I mean, Kate did the intro to the show that we play every week. So thank you for just making the show what it is and making it look much better than it used to, and everything that you do. Thank you.
Love it. Awesome. Well, what a great way to wrap it up. That was an awesome show. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in and supporting us. It's always, like Brandon said, it's so fun. Like when we see you in person and you're like, oh, I watched the show. It's such a cool feeling. But yeah, give us a follow. Follow Brandon at Marshall Mixing, myself at Kate M. Parkman on X. And as always, subscribe to our show wherever you watch your podcasts at goodforbitcoin.com. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. We wish you Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and thank you. Thank you.
Great. Well said. All right. Happy holidays, everybody.
Bye, guys.
We'll see you next year.